Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. I'm your host Terry, coming to you from, this is called Gadsden, Alabama, but it might technically be Rainbow City. I'm here at the Tyson / Lineage place. I actually picked up, I'm delivering here today. I picked up here, 4 days ago and took that load to Arkansas, and then got a load in Arkansas, came right back here. So I guess they got me on the Alabama-Arkansas regional, because after this load, I got to pick up in Guntersville, Alabama, which is up north of here. And that's going over to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, south of Little Rock there. So, but I will have a little bit of a break. I don't pick up till tomorrow. So, what are we doing today? January 12th. Weather's crazy in the whole eastern half of the United States. Blizzard conditions up in the upper Midwest, the prairie states, Iowa, Wisconsin, Chicago area is getting hit with a blizzard. And then down here, crazy heavy rain, high winds. This load is a little over 34,000 pounds, and I was coming across 22, down from Memphis. And if you watched my live last night, I was in what was that town? Potts something. Wait, I can't remember. Potts Grove? No, that wasn't Potts Grove. It was Potts something. Mississippi, at a small truck stop, Flick's truck stop. And I was going to leave early this morning, but then I was like, there's a tornado threat. And I'm not afraid of much weather. I've kind of been through almost all weather in my life. But the one thing that does scare me is tornadoes at night, because you can't see them, right? It's one thing to have a big thunderstorm at night, but when there's a tornado, you might not even know that you're driving, you're on a collision course with one. You're just driving down the road out in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi or Alabama or something. So nighttime tornadoes are scary to me. Everything else, I could pretty much deal with. So anyway, it's January 12th. Some interesting stuff happened today. On this day in, I think it was 1966, Batman with Adam West and Burt Ward. Batman premiered on TV. On this day in 1971, All in the Family debuted on TV. All in the Family was spun off several other shows, and all of these were Norman Lear vehicles. Norman Lear just passed away at the age of 100, 3 weeks ago. But very, very cutting edge, important technology, important television. All in the Family, satire, cutting edge, dealing with subjects that, didn't usually show up on TV. But by the way, All in the Family then spun off The Jeffersons, and it spun off Maude. And, Maude was a show where the female was the lead character, right? B. Arthur played Maude, title role. And in The Jeffersons, it was a TV show that portrayed successful African-American family, businessman, nuclear family. It portrayed interracial relationships. Remember their neighbors. I can't remember the name of them, but the characters. But they had there was a white guy and a black woman that were married, and they lived in that apartment building on the deluxe apartment building that the Jeffersons moved into. Also, a Norman Lear TV show was Good Times. Again, portrayal of blue-collar African-American family. That's the center piece of the show. So Norman Lear, was kind of, the stuff he did was interesting and popular because it resonated with people. It was real life in a lot of ways. Let me see what else happened today. Howard Stern was born today. Jeff Bezos born today. Howard Stern's 10 years older than Jeff Bezos, by the way. Yeah, I think that's all the cool stuff. Yeah, that was about it, I think. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about, I've been thinking about this for a while. I did a video a while back. It's been a while. I don't even know if I was at Prime when I did the video, but because I don't drive that fast, lots and lots of vehicles pass me. I'm talking about Conestoga wagons pass me, kids on bikes pass me, obviously all sorts of trucks pass me. Some of them honk because I'm really popular. They honk and shake their fists at me and stuff, and that's just one. I know they're a fan of the show here because I'm a YouTube sensation. And so I see a lot of trucks going by, and I read the back of them, right? I read what's on the back doors. And, a lot of it is, a lot of these trucking companies and their recruiting efforts are really, I feel like they're just like, either they think people that are applying for trucking companies are dumb, or they think people don't do their homework, which is possible. I think sometimes people don't do their homework. They're going to change careers, but they don't, they spend more time playing Candy Crush than they do researching this industry that they're going into. And one of the things that I think my education has given me is a kind of a skeptical eye towards advertising, and really, somebody will say something, and advertising is about trickery in a lot of ways. And what it does is that you, the viewer, oftentimes, they want the audience to hear and think one thing, even though they're saying something different. And a lot of things sound good, but when you drill down on them, it's either really ambiguous what the language is, or it could be, how you construe it is not how it's going to actually turn out. And let me give you some examples of this. And this is for people both coming into this industry and people that are maybe thinking about switching jobs. And let me talk about the first thing. There seems to be this, disease in the United States that people judge the value of a person based on their occupation, and then in that occupational field they judge people based on how much money they're making. Okay, that's a horrible way to judge anybody or anything. There are lots of people that have jobs that maybe don't pay that great, but perhaps they have great benefits, which are super valuable. And sometimes you can't even place a number on a benefit. And what I mean by that is, let's say that you are a government employee. You're just a clerk working at the water department in your city, and you're only making $14.80 an hour, but you pay nothing for health care, and your health care is basically unlimited. You know, like you could get the worst disease in the world and be in the hospital for the next 10 years and it's all covered. Well, how do you can't value that, right? Yeah, you were making $28,000, $29,000 a year, but you have health care that's worth millions to you in the right situation. Or maybe you're making $14 an hour, but they're putting 50% of what you make into a pension for you, and you don't have to contribute, invest immediately. I don't know. You know, it's like when I was first in the Navy, I could tell you, and I was actually an E3, so I wasn't even at the lowest, the bottom of the pecking order. I was actually an E3, and my checks every 2 weeks, this is like in 1980, 81, my checks every 2 weeks were $223, and I had no allotments or deductions other than like taxes. $223 every 2 weeks, actually every 15 days. But here's the thing, even back then I was accruing benefits that would be, you know, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars even at this point in my life. And so, you know, you don't know why somebody's working a certain job. And what I always say about trucking is if you like the company you're working at, it doesn't matter what you're making as long as it works for you. So getting back to what I was saying about wages, there's a lot of ways to manipulate wages and what truckers get paid. If I told you that you were going to go to a company as a company driver, but you were going to have to pay a deposit on the truck that you had, and they were going to withhold that from your pay, would you think that was a good idea? You might not, but there are companies that do it, and there are even people that work at those companies. And you know, and my response is, I would never do that because you're never going to see that money. And they're like, no, it's held in escrow. Yes, so what? It's like saying, I know my landlord is going to give me back my entire deposit after I move out, and they're going to pay it on time, and they're not going to nickel and dime me. If they have you paying a deposit on a truck that's not even yours, you know, you can do that, but I wouldn't do it. And, you know, but here's the other thing, going back to like the wages, right? Somebody says we pay 68 cents a mile, company drivers, we pay 68 cents a mile for solo. Well, that sounds like a lot of money, and it kind of is. But it's not a lot of money if you're only running 1,800 miles a week, or you're on a regional route, or you're on a dedicated route that if that dedicated customer doesn't need a truckload that day, then you don't have any work because your company says, well, you're dedicated, we're not putting you on line haul because we got plenty of line haul drivers. See, that's where all of this matters. And so, like when I went to GP Transco the first week there, I ran 1,700 miles. I called up the operations manager. I'm like, hey, bro, this ain't gonna work for me. And he was like, hold on, you know, let me look you up. He did, and he was like, yeah, that doesn't work for me either. I'll get you a new driver manager because I don't want to lose you. And, you know, because I went there because they were like, hey, we're going to run you like a scalded dog. And, you know, if you go to that company where you're consistently at 2,600, 2,800, 3,000 miles a week, then, yeah, whatever you're getting paid is adding up. And, you know, when they're paying you detention and they're not nickel and diming you, you know, that was one thing I could say about GP Transco. There was no nickel and diming. You know, they ran you. In fact, there were a couple of drivers I met there that had come from other companies that were complaining about how much they ran. Seriously. I was like, yeah, you're at the wrong company. Go back to, Frymiller or wherever you came from. Because this is a company that runs you. And when you get a pre-plan, there, in fact, I used to get planned. My driver manager would be like, hey, like let's say I'm here in Gadsden. My driver manager would be like, hey, Terry, head for Memphis. I got this load, I'll put it on you as soon as I get it. That's how it was. So that's the pay thing, and I had a company, and I want to say, I talked to the recruiters, because I talk to recruiters. I'll call up a company recruiter just to see what they say. I think it was Halvor. And they were like, I was like, well, how much do you guys pay? And they're like, oh yeah, we pay 45 cents a mile. And this was back when people are already up in the like high 50s, 60s. They're like, yeah, we pay 45 cents a mile. I'm like, that's not market. And they're like, yeah, but what we do is you get a bonus every quarter of 10 cents a mile. So whatever miles you ran that quarter, we give you a bonus. And I said, oh, so you're basically saying 55 cents a mile, except you don't pay it when it's due. Well, no. It's there. And, I was just like, do you really think, because they paid this quarterly, right? Do you really think if you quit today and you had already run, I don't know, let's say 5,000 miles, that quarter, if you quit and you weren't there at the end of the quarter, you were going to get that $500 for the bonus? No. That was a deferred comp that you were never going to see, because you would always be 90 days behind. So that's how this company basically screwed guys out of their, I say they screwed them. If you went there under that system, you kind of are asking for that. So anyway, that's enough about wages. But what about other things? What about home time? I see these trucks that go by and it says flexible home time. Well, what does that mean? Because flexible for who? The company? There are tons of companies that you say, yeah, I want to be home on this day. And, next thing you know, 2 days before that, you're still like 1,200 miles from your home and you're headed in the wrong direction. That's flexible, but not for you, right? Because you don't want flexible. You want certain. If I say I want to be home on the 20th of the month, that doesn't mean maybe I get there on the 22nd. That means I am at home on the 20th as per my instructions. And let me say this about home time, and I'm gonna, I'm probably gonna piss some people off in the trucking world, but here's how home time works for me. And this is how it's always worked for me. I run pretty hard, but even when I was at night and I was a brand new driver, I told my driver manager, I said, hey man, I'm not gonna ask to be home very often, but when I do, it's not negotiable. If I say, if I'm out 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, and if I say I want to be home, I better be home. And I advocate sticking up for yourself that way. When I was at J&R Schugel, and I've already talked about that, I thought they were a crap company. I thought they were unprofessional. I said I wanted to be home for Father's Day. Now, this is a few years ago when my kids actually cared about Father's Day. Now it's like Father's Day. I thought that was in May, or, I'm like, hey, we doing anything for Father's Day? They're like, I thought you died last year. They don't care about it anymore. But back then they did. And they're like, are you going to be home for Father's Day? I'm like, yes. I asked for the time off, right? Well, Father's Day rolls around, Father's Day weekend rolls around, and it's Friday, and I'm sitting in frickin' Columbus, Ohio with no load. So I go crazy, right? my driver manager wouldn't answer the phone after about 4:30 on a Friday, even though he was supposed to work till 5. He didn't answer the phone. So I just go apeshit. I call every number I could think of. I get a hold of night dispatch. And then he sent, and I went off on them. And he sent me a message, why are you being such a jerk? And I'm like, dude, don't even play that crap. I was supposed to be on my way home, and you want to leave the office without even putting a load on me. So then this clown puts a load on me that has to be in Boston at like 5 in the morning on the Monday after Father's Day. In other words, hey, Terry, make sure that, on Father's Day at like 1900, you get on the road to Boston, so you could deliver at 0400 on the Monday after Father's Day. I was so pissed, right? I'm like, I ain't taking that load, you jackasses. And I didn't get home, and guess what I did? Father's Day's in June. By the end of July, I was gone. I just planned it out and, decided when I was going to the next company. And then I was like, hey, I want home time. Took my truck to the terminal in Columbus. I think my wife came and got me. And then they're like, hey, Wendy, are you ready to go back out? I'm like, yeah, but not with you guys. Don't screw me out of home time. It's not negotiable. And you got to be reasonable about home time, right? You can't be out in like Nevada and need to be home in Wisconsin and tell them like 2 days beforehand. That's not going to work. You got to give them notice. But once you give them notice, and maybe you remind them or whatever, then it's got to get done. It's on them. And when I was at GP Transco, they used to send me home loaded. They'd be like, hey, I'd be like, hey, I want to be home this week. And they're like, okay, can you deliver a load? And it'd be like 50 miles away, not very far from home, on Monday morning. I'd be like, yeah, sure. And if I still wanted to be home, I'd get home on like Saturday. I'd be home Saturday, Sunday. Monday morning, I'd get up early, go deliver the load, and then come back home. And I would get paid, and it worked out okay. And they always worked around it. But you gotta look out for yourself when it comes to home time. And that's another consideration. A lot of these companies have these formulas. What are some other questions that you should be asking? Do they pay detention? Do they pay for breakdowns? Do they get their trucks off the side of the road when the truck does break down? I met a tow truck driver because he towed me, right? And that's the nice thing about Prime. Say, hey, I broke down. Somebody's gonna be out there. Even I got towed on New Year's Eve, and the dude still got out there in like 2.5 hours. And I was out in the middle of Nowhereville, Kansas. And they came from Wichita and got me and towed me to Wichita. But here's the thing. I was talking to this driver, tow truck driver. He's a totally cool dude. I'm riding, he's towing my tractor. And he was telling me how there are companies, and some of these are fly-by-night companies and stuff, but still, they will leave a driver on the side of the road. Like, driver breaks down on Thursday. They call for a tow. They're like, oh, no, that's too much money. We'll call somebody in the morning. They call somebody else. This guy said that there are companies that will call his company like 2 or 3 times over the course of like 4 days, seeing if the price went down. And he goes, these guys are sitting on the side of the road that long. That is absolutely unacceptable. If that ever happens to you, I don't care what company it is. I don't care how much they're paying you. If they leave you sitting on the side of the road for days, as soon as you get to a place where you can like catch a bus home or whatever, go. Just leave them in your rear view mirror. They can go pick the truck up at the shop when it's finished. Don't ever put up with that nonsense. We're not, this isn't a suicide mission where they just send you out there and forget about it. And then when you show back up alive, they're like, damn, man, we thought you died. That's not what this is about. So anyway, that's another thing. Good shops that fix your stuff right the first time. and you know, every shop makes mistakes, but being at a company that has responsive, you know, road assist, emergency, whatever you call it, that's important. And having shops that do the work, and you know, even shops that work beyond normal working hours. That was one of my beefs at night. Man, those freaking shop dudes were like 7 to 4:30. And if you walked in there at 4:29 needing a tire on one of the trailers, they'd be like, all right, yeah, give me 1 second. And then that dude would like leave out another door, you know, and then you'd be stuck. You'd have to get, you know, you'd have to drive down the road to Petro or whatever to get it fixed. So taking care of the equipment means taking care of the driver. Companies that pay a lot but have crap equipment, that's not taking care of the driver. What are some other things? Pet policies. You know, everybody says we got a pet and a rider policy. The policy might be, yeah, no. Okay, I guess that's the policy. But here's the thing with pets. And I learned something important about having a pet on a truck when I was at GP Transco. At GP Transco, they said you can have any pet you want on the truck as long as it doesn't burrow or slither. And so they were like, you can have a cat, you can have a dog, you can have a cat and a dog, you can have 2 dogs, 3 cats, we don't care. But you can't have any snakes, and you can't have like ferrets, you know? You can't have anything that's gonna eat through the wiring on your truck or burrow somewhere that you can't find it, okay? And oh, and no birds. They didn't want your parakeet flying around while you're trying to drive. But guess what? There was no pet deposit. They're like, your pets are welcome on our truck. And you know, people say, oh, well, pets tear up trucks. Pets go to the bathroom in trucks. Yeah, guess what? So do truck drivers. They do both of those things. They go to the bathroom in the truck. They tear it up. They're pack rats. They're hoarders. You know, they got uneaten chicken, you know, from 3 weeks ago on the floor in front of the passenger seat. We all know that there are truck drivers that are total frickin' slobs. And even a dirty dog is no worse than some of these truck drivers. I guarantee it. And, you know, GP was like, hey, we, you know, if the dog tears up the truck, you'll owe us. But we're not going to take your money in, you know, thinking that that's going to happen. And, you know, I firmly believe that people who are able to take pets on their truck are happier drivers. I think people that have pets on their truck are willing to stay out on the road longer. They feel safer. You know, people ask me about safety. There was a driver, I guess, murdered in his truck. And I saw the news report, the local news report. He was murdered in his truck at a Love's near Nashville. I think it's the one that's right up off of 65 and 24 there. They said it was West Nashville, but I think it's the one that's actually north of town. But you know, people were asking me about how safety in trucks, and what I've told some female drivers is, hey, if you want to feel safe, go to the pound and get the meanest, ugliest looking pit bull you can find that nobody else wants because they're afraid of it. And that dog will love you and jump in front of a train for you, and no one will ever come in your truck unless you want them in your truck, because no one's going to want to get a face full of that. And, you know, even a dog like B's a female, not very big. She only weighs around 50 pounds. But, you know, it's kind of funny. She always watches, and that's what dogs do, right? Where are you? Where are you going? And she was sitting in the passenger seat watching me clean the windows and the mirrors one day. And this dude walks by, this other truck driver. We were getting unloaded in Cincinnati at a beer distributor. And he walks by, he's like, man, she loves you, but I know she'll tear a motherfucker up. And I was like, yeah, I hope so. You know, that's what you want. And I just think pets on trucks are a great idea for people, for companionship. You know, every day that B's on, and by the way, B's home, you see she's not tearing up my bed, but you know, every day that dog does something that makes me just laugh out loud, and that's good for you. That's good that you have that in your life. You have a companion, you have somebody to talk to, believe it or not. It's good. It gives you something to do. I feel like it even, for a lot of truckers, it even means they're getting more exercise than they otherwise would because they got to take the dog out. But you know, I heard this one, I'll say who it is, Hirschbach. They said they have a $2,000 pet deposit for people that are leasing or buying their trucks. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I was like, what? And they're like, oh, it's your money. Yeah, right. It ain't your money. If you give up money for some reason, whether it's a pet deposit, a deposit on your truck, you know, even if you're a company driver, you're probably not going to see that money again. I'm just saying. You know, it's better to have it in your wallet than their bank account. Because they'll be like, huh? Oh, no, we have no record of you. When you want your money back, when, you know. So I have paid pet deposits. You know, I paid at Schugel and at Night, I paid $500. At both companies, they would deduct, you know, like $100 a week. It wasn't too painful, but I never got any of that money back. And Beatrice has been on every truck I've had. She's never torn anything up. One time she ate part of a mattress pad, but that was my stuff anyway, and she just did that because she got scared about something. But anyway, you know, this is not all inclusive. There's all sorts of little things that they leave out about bonuses and stuff like that. And by the way, if anybody's paying a bonus right now in this environment, beware. Because if they're having to pay a bonus, given all the truck drivers that are available, you know, I mean, think about yellow. I know a lot of yellow guys aren't going into OTR, but a lot of them, you know, there's a lot of truck drivers that are looking for a place to hang their hat. And right now. And so if you're going to a company that's paying a bonus, for example, I would just be super cautious about it and find out what the bonus payout requirements are. But if you got questions, and you know, and here's the thing, sometimes I've done things in my life where I totally could read between the lines and I knew what I was getting into right from Jump Street. And I still did it anyway because I had a reason for wanting to do that. If that's the case with you, then it doesn't matter what promises they make. But know this, recruiters are there to get you in the door. That's how they make money. And if they can't answer your questions, ask for a different recruiter. If they say, oh, you'll find out in indoctrination, my response, and I've had companies say that to me too. Oh, they can answer that at indoctrination. No, if you can't answer it before I come to indoctrination, I'm not coming to indoctrination. You know, ask about technology. Ask about driver-facing cameras. If you don't ask, they won't tell you. They're not going to volunteer that information. If it's important to you, you got to ask about it up front. Make a list. Get the answers to your questions. If they won't answer them or they can't answer them, then go to another company that will. Because the best companies don't have anything to hide. You know, they're going to tell you up front, yeah, this is how we roll. I talked to a recruiter not too long ago, and she was very straight with me about her company. And, you know, she said, yeah, we're doing away with PC. We're doing this. We're doing, you know, this is the technology. I didn't, you know, I wouldn't go to that company for a couple of reasons, but she was very forthright. And you know, you think about it, if you're talking to a recruiter and they're like blowing smoke up your butt and, you know, hiding the ball, what's the rest of the company like? That, because that person is their public facing person. That's not a driver manager or a fleet manager. That's not the maintenance guy. That's the person who deals with the public the most, non-employees the most. If that's who they're putting out there and you can't get a straight answer from them, what do you think the rest of the company is going to be like? So anyway, thanks for watching. Be safe out there. You know, like I always say, if these loads were that important, they'd have put them on airplanes. So don't risk your life or even your livelihood to deliver, you know, $1,800 worth of chicken bones to a dog food plant. So anyway, be safe. Hang in there, you know, because with this global warming, this snow is probably going to melt. And it's probably going to dry out here at some point. So you know, keep your eye on the ball and just take it easy on the road. I'll talk to you soon.